In this first talk, what I'd like to do is work on a discussion and an understanding of the difference between religion and spirituality. One of the things that I find kind of interesting when in dealing with people, especially in the 12-step program, so people first start coming around this program and they hear the 12 steps and they hear the principles of the program. What happens a lot of times is they hear a lot of discussion about religion, about God, about higher power, about spiritual awakening, spiritual experiences. And for a lot of people, this can cause a lot of confusion. The confusion is caused primarily because a lot of times we mix religion and spirituality. And we talk about the word spiritual, but a lot of times we play a lot of old religious tapes in our head. So in order to begin to understand the 12-step program and really begin to work it properly, it becomes extremely important that we're able to separate the two. Separate the difference between religion and spirituality. So in this talk, what I would like to do is spend some time working with you for an understanding of the difference between the two. In order to do that, I do want to spend a few minutes, maybe 5 or 10 minutes, talking about religion. And after that, I promise you, I'll just talk about spirituality. Whenever you mention the word religion and you put a group of people in the room and you get into a discussion about religion, you have to remember something very basic about that. Any discussion about religion probably will last about 3.5 years. And of course, everybody will be right. Because all of us, when we talk about religion, approach the topic of religion from our own perspective, from our own point of view. So as a result, we're talking about beliefs. And so as a result, people get into arguments, they even get into discussions, and they get into all types of things in the areas of religion. So whenever I talk about religion, what I usually do is I describe it from 3 basic areas. The first thing to remember about religion is that all religions are organizations. Since they are organizations, they have rules and regulations. If you want to follow them, you join and you accept them. If you don't want to follow them, you don't join. Sounds so simple, doesn't it? But the reality is very basic. Every religious structure is an organization and it has rules and regulations. A very interesting statistic that I usually point out to people is in 1970, when the census was taken in the United States, there were 443 different religious denominations in this country, which means by now there's probably 600, 700, 800 or more. If you look at that worldwide, there's probably thousands. The second thing to remember about religion is that religion basically has people in charge of it. In religious circles, we call them a hierarchy. Now, a hierarchy is a 75-cent word that simply means someone in charge. In religious circles, we call them priests, ministers, rabbis, deacons, elders, and a few other names too. But basically, they're people in charge. The unfortunate thing about religion is that most of us put a lot of emphasis on people that are in charge of religion. Most of us really look at people in charge of religion and put them up on pedestals. And as a result, anything they say, we do. And most of us aren't real when it comes to people in charge of religion. And because we're not real, we don't really express the feelings that are inside of us. And also, a lot of times what happens is a lot of fear and a lot of guilt pertain to people in charge of religion. One of the things kind of interesting, and I can relate to this in my own life, when I used to run a halfway house for alcoholics years ago, when I was in the Roman Catholic priesthood, I can remember something very basic that happened to me. I was in the backyard of my halfway house one day scrubbing out some trash cans. And we had a client that was referred to us from the old St. Luke's Hospital. And when I came back in the house after scrubbing the trash cans out, I was dressed in my old clothes. As I walked past this gentleman, I said hello to him, but I didn't introduce myself to him. So he proceeded to tell me how he didn't want to be there, how he hated priests, how he hated anything connected with religion. And he went on and called me some very interesting names. So what I did was I put the trash cans away and I went upstairs and I came back down and in the same old clothes I introduced myself to the gentleman. At that moment, he stood up, said hello to me, shook my hand, and told me how long he's been waiting to meet me. And it was a riot. I was the same person, the same clothes, the same situation, but now he had a different concept of me. And that's what happens to a lot of us when we look at religious people and religious people that we put up on pedestals. We don't act real in front of them. The third thing to remember about religion is that religion is very, 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 very specific. Extremely specific. What that means is that every individual person basically has their own concept and their own belief when it comes to religion. It's very specific to every person. As a result, what's important in discussing spirituality is that we learn to look at spirituality from a totally different perspective. It's for this reason that I want to ask you to do me a real big favor as you listen to this talk. And the favor is extremely important. What I would like you to do is, I would like you to take all of your religious beliefs, whatever they are, all of your religious feelings, all of your religious experiences, all of your religious concepts, everything in your life that pertains to religion. What I would like you to do, and listen very carefully, I would like you to take them, I would like you to pack them in a box. The second thing I would like you to do is put a lid on top of the box. The third thing is stick it in the closet. Now please listen. I didn't say throw them away. I said pack them in a box, put a lid on them, and stick them in a closet. There's a reason why I say this. It's extremely important. What I would like you to do, I would like you to listen to and try to understand the meaning of the word spiritual and spirituality, totally from the perspective of the 12-step program. And the reason for putting the religious principles in the closet is to keep those principles away from this discussion on spirituality. I would like you to look at the word spiritual today with an open mind, with an open concept, with an open point of view, totally from the concept of the 12-step program. So today I'm not here to share my beliefs with you, nor am I here to find out what yours are. But I'm here to share with you the most basic concept of the word spiritual as it comes from our 12-step program. Okay, that's enough about religion. Now let's talk about spirituality. Whenever I mention the word spiritual, I usually define it in a very simple way. Spirituality is defined in the one simple word, you. Y-O-U. Spirituality means development of self. To look at who you are as a person. Your own individuality, your own personhood. So what I would like you to do is take a little test today. The test is very simple. I would like you to take what I call the spirituality test. And it works like this. I would like to ask you 4 simple, basic questions. The questions are simple and they are basic. Now please note my terminology. The questions are simple and they're basic. What's interesting is that most of us as people, especially in the area of addiction, most of us as people are not simple and we're not basic. That's why we make the questions complicated. The key to spirituality is simplicity, and we forget that. Now we have a saying in AA and in NA. It's a very simple saying. We put it up on the blackboard and it goes like this. It's K-I-S-S. KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. Sometimes we have to get stupid in order to begin to understand. Sometimes we have to turn things off and let our higher power talk to us. The other thing I learned one time is kind of interesting when we talk about this simplicity. A friend of mine from the 4021 Club in Philadelphia, I was there one day a few years ago, and he walked up to me and he says, you know, Vince, he said, when God created human beings, God made a great big mistake. And I said, what? Tell me. He said, well, he should have created them with their heads portable. I said, why? He said, well, every Every week, a person should be able to take their head off, stick it on a chair, and sit on it. And their head would meet the other end of their body, and maybe they get some balance. Unfortunately, what happens to us a lot of times in the area of spirituality, we aren't able to shut our head off. And as a result, we don't give God, our higher power, enough room to be able to speak to us also. There has to be a balance of the two. That's extremely important. So with that in mind, I'd like to share these 4 questions with you, the 4 questions of spirituality. The first question: do you love yourself? Do you love you? It's a very basic and a very simple question. If you don't love yourself, you cannot love anybody else. You can't give away something you don't have. It's real simple. One of the problems with addiction, and by the way, when I mention addiction, and I'll do more of this in another talk, when you mention addiction, I'm not just talking about drugs or alcohol. I'm talking about all of us who basically are down on ourselves and who spiritually beat ourselves up. See, spiritual addiction simply means I don't like me. I don't have a good self-image and a good self-concept. So as a result, I have a hard time with myself. So what happens to us a lot of times is we don't know how to love ourselves. We're too busy beating ourselves up and putting ourselves down. So in order to develop spirituality, we have to develop a relationship with self. A relationship with who we are. And it's kind of beautiful. You get to know who you are, to develop your own personhood. And yet that's hard in the beginning, because most of us don't know how to do that. We were never taught it. We were never given the principles of it. We don't know how to work it. So we have to learn how to love ourselves. Second question: do you like yourself? I always joke about this, but I always say, my name is Vince DiPasquale. I happen to be the best Vince DiPasquale there is in the whole wide world. You know what? If I don't believe that, I've got a problem. Nobody else does. Because the reality is that I have to like me. I got to live with me. I got to be comfortable with me. That's extremely important. See, spirituality means loving yourself and liking yourself. Spirituality means getting in touch with the you. The way in which we put that together in the program is very simple. In the 12-step program, we talk about the importance of accepting who you are. 90% of developing good, healthy wellness is to accept the reality of who you are as a person. Most of us deny who we are and are constantly trying to be somebody else. And are always putting people up on pedestals and trying to model ourselves after them, instead of living in the reality of who we are and enjoying the us, the beautiful person within, the beautiful individual called us. So special. We forget that sometimes. So acceptance is so beautiful. Being able to come to that point in my life where I can accept who I am is the beginning of my spiritual growth. Because I have to be me. It's the most important part of living. So loving yourself and liking yourself is beginning to realize the beauty of who you are as a person. And it's so special. But it's also beginning to develop inside of you the beautiful holistic power of self. And that is the beginning of developing your higher power within. The third question: do I respect myself? Do I respect me? It's a very beautiful question. If you don't respect yourself, you can't respect anybody else. So it's so important for you to begin to have a self-respect. And we have a word in the program we use for that. And it's a word sometimes a lot of us don't want to hear. The other word for respect is a beautiful word called responsibility. Probably the scariest word in the English language. And most of us have a hard time with that word. We really do. Because to be responsible is to be grown up. To be responsible is to live. To be responsible is to be spiritual. You think about it for a couple of minutes. One of the things I've learned over the years, and someday I'm going to do this, I don't know when, but I'll get around to it one day. Someday I want to create a board game for people that are in their addiction. And the game is called the Crazy Game. And it goes like this. I'm not an addict. I'm not sick. I'm okay. I'm crazy. You see, people like to be crazy. You think about this for a couple of minutes. When you're crazy, you've got no responsibility. It's fun to be crazy. When you're crazy, you've got an excuse not to be responsible. Again, use a little analogy. When you're crazy, they put you in an institution, they feed you, and they clothe you. They give you free tickets to Veterans Stadium and a bus ride up and back. When you develop a sense of sobriety and wellness, then you have to go to work, you got to pay taxes, you got to be responsible for your own behavior, and you're going to buy your own tickets to Veterans Stadium and ride the subway with the rest of us. So who's crazy? You think about that for a couple of minutes. The reality is that people basically enjoy being sick. Because when you're sick, you don't have to be responsible. You can put the weight on somebody else. And what happens to a lot of us is we spend a good portion of our time blaming other people instead of being responsible for our own life, creating our victims. It's much more powerful to be responsible and to live and to enjoy your own self. It's a beautiful part of recovery. The fourth question, do I care about myself? Now we're really talking about spirituality. Do I care about me? Again, it's a very simple question. If you don't care about yourself, you cannot care about anybody else. You cannot give away something you don't have. Caring about yourself. Again, for a couple of minutes, relate back. When most of us are into our self-pity, our insanity, our craziness, into our addictions, most of us don't care about ourselves. We could care less about ourselves. Caring about yourself is something very special. But to care about yourself, you have to have a good feeling about yourself. And people are always saying to me, what are spiritual things? And I respond in a very simple way, in a very basic way. Spirituality to me means making your bed in the morning. It's very simple. But the reality is, you slept in it, you make it. Spirituality means going out and buying a bar of soap and using it. Taking care of your own personal hygiene. Spirituality might be washing your clothes, keeping your house somewhat clean and neat. Spirituality is caring about the things that are important to you. But real spirituality, in the caring level, is a simple thing like eating proper food, nourishing your body. Your body is sacred, it's special. Treating it with sacredness and specialness, feeding it properly, getting proper exercise, taking time for you, treating yourself as somebody special, giving yourself some special treats, doing things for you, giving yourself time for you because you are unique and you are special. Learning the importance of being able to spend time with yourself so you can then share it with other people, and it's so special. That's spirituality. So loving yourself, liking yourself, respecting yourself, and caring for yourself. If you look at the area of addiction, when we talk about addiction, addicted people do not care about themselves. They don't love themselves. They don't like themselves. They don't respect themselves. They're too busy wearing themselves out and beating themselves half to death. So in spirituality, in the spiritual part of recovery, we have to learn, actually learn how to do these things. We have to learn, actually learn how to do these things. And by the way, it's really exciting. It's extremely exciting, even though sometimes it's very painful too. And one of the things we learn after a period of time is that we can grow and learn and experience. And these principles of spirituality bring us into reality. Very special reality. Now what I'd like to do is share with you what I call 5 basic spiritual principles. These 5 principles are kind of neat. But they are simple little principles that will teach you how to love yourself, how to like yourself, how to respect yourself, and how to care for yourself. They will teach you the principles and the spirituality of this beautiful 12-step program. It's so neat. And what I usually do is I express these 5 principles in little letters. And these letters bring them out very clearly. The first spiritual principle I want to share with you today is a very simple principle. It involves 3 simple little letters. D, D, T. Now, remember anything else that I said to you in this talk, please remember these 3 letters. Put them on your forehead, stick them on the wall, do whatever you have to do, but please remember these 3 letters. They are so basic. D, D, T. Don't do your drug today. Now, when I talk about drugs, remember, I'm talking about alcohol or drugs, compulsive overeating. I'm talking about compulsive behavior. I'm talking about whatever your drug of choice happens to be. Whatever things get you in trouble. So don't drug today. It's extremely important that you understand this, because we have to learn something that's very simple. It's that principle of living life one day at a time. Now we're talking about real spirituality, real special spirituality. We have to learn to live for today. This is the most beautiful day of our life, the most special day of our life. We have to learn to live for it. If we learn the principle of living one day at a time, our life becomes simple and it becomes basic. And we enjoy the beauty of life. Doesn't mean you don't plan your future, but you plan it realizing that it might work and it might not. And you deal with the reality and enjoy the moment. Enjoy the specialness of today. And that's what it's all about. In AA, there's a little card they put out in AA called the green card. On the green card, there are 3 simple little letters. The letters are Y for yesterday, T for today, and TO for tomorrow. Yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Now, I want to tell you a real big secret today. It's a gigantic secret, so please don't tell anybody. Yesterday is over. I really hate telling you that. But most of us stay stuck in our yesterdays. Most of us will not let go of our yesterdays. We hold on to them. They keep us sick. We have to understand something, that our yesterday is our history. It has happened, it is over, it is done. You cannot bring back yesterday. And unfortunately for many of us, we spend our life blaming our yesterdays, our old tapes. We have to learn to let go of them. They are over and they are done. We have to face them, deal with them, and then let them be. Let go of them. It's painful, it hurts, but it has to be. So we have to learn to let go of yesterday. The sad part about a lot of us is we spend a lot of time holding on to our yesterdays. And our yesterdays keep us sick. Our yesterdays make us weak. Our yesterdays keep us from moving on into the future. Our yesterdays keep us from growing. It's scary sometimes. And yet we got to deal with them. We got to face them. And we have to realize that they're now history. Let me use an analogy to bring this out, which I think is so important. I call it the analogy of the garbage can. It's kind of neat. And it works like this. Imagine just for a couple of minutes, make believe, for a couple of minutes that you are a nice silver garbage can. And inside that garbage can, you've got some nice, juicy, ripe garbage. Now, what I'd like you to do is, I'd like you to take that garbage can
and stick it in the corner and put a lid on it and leave it there for 3 weeks. At the end of the 3 weeks, when you go in the kitchen, you take the lid off the garbage can. Guess what? It stinks. Put the lid back on it and leave it there for about 7 weeks. At the end of the 7 weeks, when you go in the kitchen, you ain't got to worry now. The lid will take itself off. The garbage has fermented. Leave the garbage in the garbage can for about 3 months. Now, when you wake up on the second floor in your house, guess what has come upstairs to greet you? The smell of your garbage. Leave the garbage in the garbage can for about 6 months. Your next door neighbor knocks on the front door and comes to pay you a visit because your garbage has now left your house and has gone over and joined their house. See, we're no different than that garbage can. If we keep garbage inside of us, the garbage stinks. If we hold on to it, it continues to torment us. We have to learn to clean out the garbage can and clean it out completely and make a total change and let go of it. And it's scary. We have to do it. So we like holding on to some of our garbage sometimes. But letting go of that garbage means that you got to clean it all out. It's got to all go. It has to be a total change, a total development. It's interesting. Did you ever scrub a garbage can out? Scrub it real clean and leave one little piece of rotten potato in it just that big. It still stinks.
How to flip sides on the cassette.
We have to learn to let go of our yesterdays. Tomorrow? Well, in the program we simply say that there is no tomorrow. There's just today. When tomorrow comes, it becomes today. So we learn to live this program just for today. Real simple and real basic. And if we live this day to our fullest, and we love this day to our fullest, and we enjoy it to our fullest, the gift of life will meet us and greet us. And it's very special and very beautiful. So learn just for today to let go of those things that are negative in your life, the drugs of your choice. The second spiritual principle, very simple and very basic. The principle involves 3 letters again. P, P, T. Persons, places, and things. Now we're talking about spirituality. If you love yourself, like yourself, respect yourself, and care for yourself, you will stay away from negative persons, places, and things. You know what's so ironical about all this? And the insanity of addiction? The insanity is simply this. You know, it's very normal for an alcoholic to want to drink, and for a drug addict to want to use drugs, or a compulsive overeater to want to compulsively overeat, or a gambler to want to gamble. It's very normal. But the insanity in our life is the loyalty that we have to negative persons, places, and things. That is the insanity of addiction. And we have to learn something that's hard for us. We have to learn to let go of negative persons, places, and things. That means we have to make changes. It means we have to change our persons, places, and things. It means we have to make those changes in our life that will teach us good and healthy things about ourselves. And it means that we have to dare to be different and dare to make changes. We have to dare to be able to move on with our life. It's a beautiful concept of life. It's a spiritual concept of life. As you begin to get in touch with the self, you begin to get in touch with you, then you are ready to make those changes and begin to let go. And as you let go, even though it hurts, you now move on, and life becomes beautiful, and life becomes special. See, it's unfortunate, but we have a relationship with those old persons, places, and things. They are part of our history and part of our life. But remember, history is history. History is allowed to end so new history can begin. That's the beautiful part of developing new persons, places, and things. Of developing people around you that are positive for you. Developing new friends and new places and new situations. It's the excitement, it's the beauty of life. It takes us out of our rut. It helps us to grow, to experience the beauty of life. And so a spiritual person has to be willing to make those changes. The third spiritual principle, it's a very simple principle, and it involves 2 simple letters. The letters are HP, higher power. Now, please, 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 please. You'll notice I'm emphasizing something right now. Please. I emphasize this because so many of us, when we hear the term higher power, we immediately get out all the theology books, we get out all the things we were taught as kids, and we immediately try to figure out our higher power. You know what's so scary about trying to figure out your higher power? You can't figure it out. It'll drive you nuts. We have to learn to leave it alone so it can figure us out. It's so interesting when we get into higher power. A higher power is a relationship with a power within us that is so special and so beautiful, that is there all the time. Our higher power has been with us since the day we were born. All we got to do is listen. We have a hard time listening because we're too busy thinking all the time. So we have to develop the balance in our life. There's an old AA saying, when you go to bed at night, put your shoes all the way under the bed. When you get up in the morning, get down on your knees to get your shoes. While you're down there, say a prayer. Don't worry about who you're praying to. It's not important. The important thing is to ask for help. The humility, the simplicity of asking for help. To realizing you can't do it by yourself. That you need help. It's the beautiful concept of recovery, and it's so special. Thomas Merton tells us over and over again, no person is an island. Nobody is. No, we need help. We begin with our higher power. It is the most beautiful spiritual help of all. To have that relationship with a power greater than ourselves within. It's so special and it's so beautiful. I don't care what you call it. Call it what you want. It's yours. It belongs to you. It's special. And that's the unique part of it. And so many of us don't give ourselves the opportunity to be able to really get in touch with and build that beautiful core inside of us. Our relationship with ourself and our God as we understand them. That higher power within. That beautiful concept of recovery. I want to share a couple stories with you that might be a little bit funny, but I think they bring out this whole concept of higher power. They're kind of beautiful. One time years ago at an anniversary meeting, I heard a gentleman speak from Center City, Philadelphia. Kind of an interesting guy. And he talked about his higher power. And he said that in his bedroom, in his house, he had mounted on the wall a policeman's billy club. And every morning when he got up, he got down on his knees and he prayed to the billy club every day. And he asked the billy club to keep him sober. And I figured, this is strange. Got to figure this one out. So I asked him to tell me his story. He did. He said when he was in his active addiction for years, he used to be one of these drunks, that went into a bar and never left when he was asked to. Of course, the bartender called the local police department, and they invited him to leave also. He never listened to them either. So the policeman used to play a tune on top of his head with a billy club. And so for 3 years, he had split heads, bumps, all kinds of things on top of his head with a billy club. After 3 years of getting hit with a billy club, he finally figured it out. The billy club must have been his higher power. So now when he gets up in the morning, he gets on his knees, he looks at the billy club, he prays to it, and he knows that if he picks up a drink, that billy club is waiting for him. It keeps him sober. Whatever works, works. That's the beautiful part of developing a relationship with a higher power. If someone can develop a good, healthy concept of self just from a billy club, just think what we can do if we begin to get in touch with that power within us, that strength that makes us the unique person that we are. That higher power within is so special and so beautiful. I call that power the power of love. The power of loving and being loved. It's so beautiful and it's so special. Also, I call it the power of honesty. HP. Honest power and humble power. The humility, and by the way, when I mention humility, I'm not talking about humiliation. When I mention humility, I'm talking about simplicity. Simplicity. The honesty and simplicity. It's beautiful. So beautiful to be able to get honest with yourself and then to be able to be honest with another human being. It's a beautiful part of life. And as you do that, you begin to grow your higher power. And by the way, don't make any human being your higher power, please. Build that relationship deep within you, with your God. Make it personal to you. That's the gift of higher power. Fourth spiritual principle is a 3-letter word that most of you have heard over and over again in the area of religion. The 3-letter word is G-O-D, God. It's unfortunate, but a lot of us have kind of preconceived concepts about God. God's some old man that sits up in the sky. Every time you do something wrong, he marks it. I got you. You have all these concepts, these fearful concepts of God. In the 12-step program, we have a very simple definition of God. It is so simple, it is ridiculous. G-O-D. Good, orderly direction for my life. The one thing we have to learn is how to follow direction. How to put order and structure and discipline into our life. And a lot of us don't like this. Because when we begin to learn and grow and develop discipline in our life does change. It becomes very beautiful. It becomes very special. It's a beautiful part of recovery. Another old AA saying, take the cotton out of your ears and stick it in your mouth. In short, shut up and listen. So many of us have such a hard time listening. It's unfortunate, but we always have the answers to everything instead of listening to the questions. Let me use an analogy. Did you ever see 10 junkies standing on a street corner? Everybody's rapping. Everybody's talking. Everybody's carrying on a conversation. And nobody's saying nothing. There's a lot of noise, a lot of hot air coming out. There's no depth. There's nothing to them. It's empty. Empty barrels make a lot of noise. Did you ever stop in, and see an alcoholic in a bar? It's amazing. I often wonder why the President of the United States, if he wants to solve all the budget problems in Washington, if he doesn't fire the Congress, fire everybody, and just leave one bar open. He can stop in the bar every day and they'll tell him how to run the country, how to run foreign affairs, how to run everything. No problems at all. What's interesting is when we have answers to everything, we don't know any questions. We have to allow ourselves time to process, to learn the questions, to hear, to see what's going on. Spirituality is listening. Listening. Learning to communicate, learning to listen. It's a beautiful gift of prayer, the gift of spirituality. It's so special. And we have a hard time with that. We have to learn to be quiet, to let things come in, to allow ourselves to see the beauty around us. So many times we get so caught up in the insanity and the craziness and all the activity, we don't make time to see what's really important, what's really special, even within our own self. We miss all the most beautiful parts of our life. So good orderly direction means making healthy decisions for your life. That's hard. Because so many times when you make healthy decisions, when you begin to make healthy changes in your life, a lot of people may not like you in those changes. They may not agree with you because they have used you for years. We have to learn that no more do we allow anybody to use us. We learn to love, not to use. And we learn to make healthy, positive decisions for our life. Something I always tell people at this stage, which I think is important, I always tell people, for a few minutes, take 2 words and toss them out of your vocabulary. And the 2 words are right and wrong. Because they have too many guilt and religious concepts to them. And change the words to healthy and unhealthy. And for the first time, look at your life holistically. Look at it from the point of view of health. And begin to realize you've got to do what's healthy for your life. What's beautiful for you. Because if you have you together, and you have a concept of you, then you will give that to whoever you come in contact with. You will give it to the people around you. Some will accept it, and some won't. And that's okay. It's not important whether other people accept it. The serenity and the peacefulness has to be inside of you. That's following good, orderly direction. That's beginning to open yourself up to discipline of self. To begin to realize the beauty of self, the responsibility of self. That's the definition of God as I understand Him within me. It's coming to an understanding of me as a person. And if I do that, I will develop the God as I understand Him within me. It's beautiful, it's special, and it makes so much sense. The hardest thing for us to do is to give ourselves permission to make those healthy decisions. Because when we make them, sometimes they're painful and they're hard, but we have to. So G-O-D, good, orderly direction for my life. The last spiritual principle is a real simple principle. The letters don't mean anything in this word, but the word does. It's a word we've heard over and over again in religion for a long time. The word is S-I-N, sin. Isn't it amazing how that one simple little word can strike fear and guilt into the hearts of the greatest? How it drives so many people crazy? The thing I want to share with you from this very simple program is that there's only one sin that any human being can commit. One sin and one sin only. In the program, we don't call them sins, by the way. We call them character defects. We have step 6 and 7 to take care of that. We're all human. We all have character defects. Welcome to the club. The reality is that we are human beings. It's nice to be human. It really is. It means that we all have idiosyncrasies. We all have our skeletons in our closet. We all have our little craziness, insanities in our life. We have all those things that we did and we don't understand why. We're all part of the human race. Welcome to it. It's kind of special. And it makes you realize your humanness is part of who you are. It's okay to make mistakes. It's all part of life. Instead of beating yourself half to death when you make a mistake, but learn from it and grow from it, discover from it, accept the responsibility for it. It's beautiful. Sometimes we spend our life in this whole area constantly trying to be perfect. We don't have to be perfect. It's so beautiful. So sin, S-I-N. There's only one sin we can commit, and that's it. And that's simply and basically this: to give up on yourself. Never, never, never give up. Keep coming back. I don't care how hard it gets, how tough it gets. And sometimes it gets real tough. And sometimes you want to throw the towel in. You want to let everything go. Don't give up. Keep trying. Because even at that time when things are so low, maybe it's a higher power again speaking to us to bring things back again and make us make more decisions and grow. And it's beautiful. So the most beautiful thing in the world is never to give up on yourself, because you are worth it. You are special and you are beautiful. Do not give up on yourself. It's a beautiful part of recovery. You know, there are no expectations in this program. There's only the expectation of today. We do the best we can one day at a time. And we realize that our spiritual self, the spiritual us, will grow if we work on it today. Spend our time with it today. It's so beautiful and so special. So the beautiful thing is, remember, don't give up. Keep trying. Keep struggling. Keep growing. It's the beauty part of life. Even though sometimes it's a real pain, but it's beautiful. Eventually it begins to work. Eventually you see the results. Again, we have to be able to wait for the results. We have to be able to be patient for the results. And realize they will come. The rewards do come. They tell us in the program, if you work this spiritual program, you will experience things beyond your wildest dreams and your wildest imagination. And that is really true. That is really true. And it's so special. And yet, be patient. Wait for it. It's worth it. It's a beautiful part of recovery. Beautiful part of this program. So spirituality simply means loving yourself, liking yourself, respecting yourself, and caring for yourself. If you do that, then you won't pick that drug of your choice up today. You'll work this program one day at a time. If you do that, you'll stay away from negative persons, places, and things. If you do that, then you'll get in touch with your higher power, the honesty, the humility, the strength within you. If you do that, you'll follow direction. You'll have some discipline and order in your life. You'll enjoy the gift of your life. And above all, you won't give up. You'll keep trying. You'll keep discovering. You'll keep celebrating. You'll keep enjoying the beauty of you. That's the beautiful part of spirituality. Then I want to go back now and take that box out of the closet we talked about in the beginning. And maybe you want to leave it there for a while. That's up to you. But whatever you do with that box, remember one basic thing. Work on the spiritual you. You are the most important person in this whole universe. And you are very special. And when you begin to believe that and live that and make that become the function of your life, then you will experience the rewards, the beauty, and the strength of this program and of this life. And that's the key to spirituality. So the spiritual you is a very beautiful part of recovery. And yet we have to learn to separate religion from spirituality. We have to learn to keep our spiritual self the center. And then we'll develop that relationship with God in a very special way. And our relationship with other people who we then allow to be part of our life. And we'll share that beautiful gift of love. You see, in summing up, what I talked about today is that beautiful gift, a beautiful concept of love, which I'll cover in another tape. But the beautiful concept of loving. And loving simply means to love you, to like you, to respect you, to care for you. Because you are a child of the universe, you are very special, and you are very beautiful. Be good to yourself. You will automatically be good to others. Thanks for listening. I enjoyed sharing. Take care.
Hi, this is Ron Kay. If you've gotten something out of this CD and you found it has valuable information, please pass it on to somebody else, download it, make a copy, pay it forward. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed it. Bye-bye.